Gosh, that's when you do what you do.
I think.
Yes, yes.
All right, welcome everybody to the Carmel Clay Public Library Board of Trustees. Welcome everybody to the Carmel Clay Public Library Board of Trustees meeting, August 25th, 2025. I call this meeting to order. We have an agenda here to approve.
Move approval of the agenda.
Okay, I get a first from Ann Poindexter, a second from Stephanie. Yep. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And passes. We also have the consent agenda, which has the minutes from last month's Board of Trustees meeting, the claims, warrants, and last month's bills list, some personnel changes there, and a recap, a summary of Mike Reuter's fiscal plan presentation that he gave to us last month.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
First from Ann Poindexter, second from John Williams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No items were removed from the consent agenda. And the next we have is Bob's director's report. And Bob, do you want to highlight anything on the director's report?
Well, I should probably, I mentioned this in the last section, but you've probably seen that I'm scheduled to live stream with Mayor Pinkham and the school superintendent, just talk about the budget impacts that we're expecting from tax law. I feel like it's maybe a little early for this, but the mayor asked me, and so, what are you going to do? I'll share our current thoughts and expectations. So I'm still trying to work through that. EJ obviously is helping me. Chrissy Walker, our communications manager, they're helping me. I'm going to do a dry run tomorrow. I'm still developing slides, and we're doing a dry run, the three entities. We're getting together on Wednesday to talk about, how we're handling this. For my part, I feel that I should start with a basic overview of our budget, just in terms of our annual revenue versus our annual operating expenses. Not get too complicated, but just give people a sense of how the library is spending operation money and what funds we have to work from. And then talk some about how busy the library is and just the level of usage that we see just in terms of checkout, program attendance, visitation, touch on all of that, just to give people all of the context before we start talking about anticipated revenue reductions and that sort of thing. Next year, we feel like we are pretty sure it's going to be a low impact year. We're expecting a little less in property tax revenue. EJ has forecast about 300,000 approximately less in property taxes, but we expect that to increase as the law continues to phase in and the net assessed value will continue to decrease. So it's a shrinking taxable pool there that we have to work with. But the real concern for us, for me, is the local income tax piece of it. Because if you look at how that's structured, there's no guarantee that you'll even get any local income tax revenue. And is it 43% of our budget,
Yeah.
right around? So that would be a huge hit. Now, am I saying that I don't think Hamilton County will support libraries? No, I mean, if ask me right now, yes, I think they will support the libraries in the county, but we don't know what issues they'll be facing in the future. We don't know who's going to be on that council in the future. Could be a whole different set of variables than what we're aware of sitting here in August 2025, when the first year that we have to do this is we have to ask them to set a rate in 2027 to go in effect for 2028. And then once we go through all of that, that's only good for that year. And that's a process that has to be repeated annually. So I think part of the point there is that freezes our ability to plan. I mean, if that had been the conditions that we were working under 10 years ago, we probably wouldn't have a renovated library and a branch. We would have reduced revenue and we would have too much uncertainty around the future. And so that's what we're facing here. And so that's pretty much how I'm going to frame it.
When will this air? And when, on what?
Thursday at 6 p.m. It's on the city's channel.
Their TV channel, their website, their,
Okay.
They're giving me 20 minutes. So we each have with 20 minutes each. So 20 minutes is, for my part, should be plenty of time.
Will there be questions and answers?
The city they've created a form so people can submit a question to any of the three of us or to all of us. So far, I haven't seen a question that's been directed to me, but I'm going to try to be prepared to answer them if we get them.
So it's live, right?
It's live, yeah. But I'll be probably in this room alone, just live streaming.
EJ won't be here with you.
Well, that would be helpful. You could have cue cards.
Not on screen.
Well, no, off screen.
Yes.
Do you have a flavor of some of the questions that they're getting for the city?
It's last I talked to them, no one had received a question. So we'll see. It's not good for us, but we're in a better position than a lot of libraries out there where this absolutely is going to be terrible for schools and libraries across the state. And, another point to make on this is that while libraries are facing this kind of funding reduction, the state library received a 30% cut. I don't know why, because there was a general directive for all departments in the state to take a 5% cut. So why did the state library get 30? I don't know, but that hurts. And it hurts smaller libraries worse than it hurts us because some libraries depend more on this state library. Some libraries are completely, their catalog discovery system is completely funded by the state library. We do get technology grants, and that's great. Some libraries can't get by without that. And so, and the state library, they use pass-through dollars from Institute of Museum and Library Services. So when that got zeroed out through executive order, those pass-through dollars dried up. So libraries in the state had taken multiple hits from multiple directions.
It might be worth making the point too, that the new system creates winners and losers. It's not just that some systems are really going to get hit more.
Yeah,
Some systems are going to benefit greatly and dramatically. It sets up a competitive system where you really have winners and losers. And the
Yeah.
losers are gonna lose big.
right. I absolutely agree. Even in Hamilton County, that let's say, do the thought exercise in 2027, the five independent library systems in Hamilton County, we go to Hamilton County Council and ask them to set the maximum rate, which is 0.05%. And they do that. That's as good a scenario as we can get. We're still looking at over $1 million in lost revenue because the way that it then gets apportioned is per capita by population. And so that means less for Carmel, I think less for Sheridan, but $1 million plus more for Hamilton East. Westfield more. In Westfield, they're in the middle of they're paying to get a midpoint new census because the mayor believes the population has grown so much it will pay for itself because they'll be eligible for larger grants and all kinds of other things. But that once they do that, they'll get a bigger piece. And so it's going to be a big hit for us. And part of I suppose the Carmel Fishers discussion that's been happening for several years now. Now it's in library world too, because there is the point that a lot of the tax revenue collected is coming from Carmel, but it's going to, in terms of libraries, it's more of it is leaving Carmel.
Okay. Anything else on the director's report?
Nope.
Any questions for Bob? We get a motion for receiving the director's report.
Move to receive the director's report.
Okay, we have first from Casey Wilson,
Second.
second from Ann Poindexter. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Any trustee liaison reports,
No.
staff reports?
Yeah. We have IT manager Peter Konchak is with us, and he has a little presentation. Let me see if I can get that going. I need to do a share screen, so bear with me. Hey, Peter.
Well, thank you. I have two resolutions for you tonight that you're gonna see, I think, after this, but I thought since I was here, I would give you a little update on how things have been going with the Digital Media Lab. Bob, do you want to hit the next slide? So we've had a very, very busy summer. Typically, we try to do a theme for our summers, and so this year we did a summer of photography. Last year it was a summer of animation. But we had a lot of programs that drew a lot of people in this summer, and our computer use hit an all-time high, which it's actually been trending upward this year. So April, May, June, and July of this year were all greater than last year. And the July number ended up being the best basically of all time, which was wonderful. We sometimes fight against statistics from right after we opened. We had massive door counts and people coming in just because they were like, what is this place? This is all new. So when we start going over those numbers, it's really gratifying to see that. So next slide. This is a short update. So we talked a little bit about the summer, summer of photography. So we did a lot of different things. We had some outside presenters come in. That's what's on the left there. There's a Carmel photographer named Zach Dobson who does a lot of documentary photography. He came in and gave a session. I did one on travel and landscape photography. We did some photo walks. Actually, we did a photo walk at the park. We did some little contests and just trying to engage with people again in the community around photography. And on the right, we had one of our I guess it's probably one of our favorite programs. It's called Dapper Dogs. So if you sign up, you can bring your dog, and we do like professional grade dog photography. And so the goal was to set this up on the event lawn, which is what we did 2 years ago. Unfortunately, that day it was threatening rain, and we couldn't really do that. So we set up right down here by the entrance, kind of underneath the sky bridge, so it was covered. So pretty much everybody that walked by coming into the library that day got to see Dapper Dogs.
Some dog photography.
Dog photography. We brought Carl Zemlin back. He used to work for the Digital Media Lab. He is a IndyCar photographer. He does a lot of photography. So, and he's also the spouse of the staff member. So he came in to do the photography side of it because he has all the appropriate gear. And we did a staff session as well. So we photographed a lot of dogs. I think the next slide has a few of those dogs. So the dog on the left is a famous dog here. That's Little Mama, Bob.
I shared pictures with the staff at other meetings. Everybody knows Little Mama. I'm going to get her in office.
She's going to get an office.
I love her ears.
Part of the next expansion plan, I suppose. But this is just a popular thing we do, and it kind of showcases some of the things you can do with the lab. You know, we have photography gear, we have a room that you can use as a studio. Maybe not bringing your dog, but and then all the software, of course, to process these things. So we just did a whole series of photography things this summer, and they were very well received. Next. And so coming up, just a little bit more on programming, we're really excited that we're hoping to do a collaborative program between the 3 makerspaces in Hamilton County. So we have our digital media lab, there's Ignite Studio at Hamilton East, and Westfield, Washington now has a small makerspace in their newly renovated library. And we all kind of do different things. We're here very much more digitally focused, 3D printing, digital design. Ignite does more, I would say, crafts than we would do here. And Westfield, Washington just kind of has a whole mix of stuff. And so the goal is to come up with a program where patrons could go to each space and do part of their project in each space so that they would get to see what all 3 spaces have to offer, learn more about what's available, because our spaces are open to people from the county. So there are anybody can come in and use the space or 3D print, for example, and Ignite's the same way. So that's kind of the goal. We're still working on what that might look like. I think the Carmel piece is going to be a sort of a digital design exercise, maybe creating a character or something. It may end up being something that is then cut on wood. Westfield, Washington has a laser cutter, and then possibly painted at Ignite. And so the goal would just be to encourage people to participate in this and learn more about the 3 spaces. So lots of things happening with programming. Next slide. And just wanted to highlight, 3D printing is always something that we're doing a lot of. That's kind of what the year looks like. It tends to always go that way, where it starts slow and builds into the summer. Summer's always busiest. We have a lot of parents, grandparents coming in with their kids, and they're saying, what can we do here? And they're looking, sometimes they'll design something small and print it, or they'll find a file online that they want to print here. So we do.
Describe the process of printing 3D. What would you do to?
So typically what we do is we ask patrons to email us a file. So there are websites out there that are repositories of these files. So you could go on and you could type in, just anything you're looking for, and somebody may have already designed that object, and you could download that file, often for free. You could email it to us and tell us maybe what color you want. Staff will write back and say, that will take 10 grams of filament, and this is what it would cost. And then once the patron approves it, we put it in the queue, we print it for them, they come in and pick it up, and then they pay that small fee for the filament. We do offer exercises for patrons where if they do one of our sort of pre-designed exercises, we'll print it for free. Those start as small as little keychains, and they move on up to more difficult design challenges.
I did a little keychain. I haven't moved on up.
Yeah, well, we have bookmarks. I mean, it's a whole variety of stuff that, and a lot of them are designed for kids to get started. So there are free tools out there that parents can use from home, so they don't have to have their child in the lab with them all the time, where they can do part of it and come back to it later. They don't have to do the whole thing at once. So we do a lot of that. We've got a whole binder full of exercises, and they're also on the library website. Just
It is interesting that it's staff mediated. And so I've been down there and been talking to the staff, and sometimes I've talked to them, they received a file that they had to communicate back.
Yeah.
As there was something in that file that really wouldn't have been printable.
Right. Yeah. So some libraries have a model where they'll just sort of stick a 3D printer out there and say, go. We found that the design skills and sort of the difficulty of getting the best output meant that it was better to sort of have that staff mediate that process. So the staff can look at that file, see if it's going to print correctly, and if it isn't, make alterations to it. So for example, there are times when you're printing something and there has to be a support structure under it because you can't print where there's, in the middle of air, let's say. And so especially with younger designers, they may design something and not realize that it's not going to print. So instead of kind of having them fail by printing it and just ends up as a blob of plastic, we'll look at the file and help them. So we kind of mediate that process to make sure they get the best output.
I brought 3 of my grandkids here over the summer, and they just showed up, and the staff was great to work with them. They all printed something and have it on their in their bedrooms. So it was
Excellent.
really well done. And the staff, I don't think they even knew who I was. They just
Mhm.
really worked with the kids, and they were very patient and excited, and it was a good experience. So thank you.
Excellent. Who are you?
One of the oldest board members, John Williams. Glad to meet you.
So we had a very busy, energetic summer. And we have, like I said, so there was a very short presentation, 2 resolutions, one of which is related to 3D printing. Do you want me to describe those for the board?
Sure, you're on a roll.
We do allow patrons to bring in their own filament and use our printers. And sometimes it's just, we don't buy that filament. It doesn't make sense for us, but they have a specific color, or maybe it's a flexible filament we don't use, for example. So in the past, we charged them kind of a setup fee for that, so that we were at least, if the staff had to go through that process, there was some fee associated with it. Unfortunately, that seems to be kind of not the best way to do it, because charging by that job, if you will, could mean $3 for something that takes 5 minutes to print, or it could be $3 for something that takes 10 hours to print. So they were hoping to change that structure to $2 per 5 hours of print time. So the longer print jobs would cost the patron a little bit more.
This is for people that are bringing their own
Yeah,
filament.
so it's really for the machine time, if you will, and for the staff time to make sure that that print is going to work and properly printing then, as they have to do that.
Do you have a sense of how many, the percentage,
It's
of how many
not
people do
much.
that?
Yeah, it's probably a couple things a month. I think they just felt like it wasn't real fair to charge a flat rate when someone might be using 10 hours of machine time versus 30 minutes. So this would be more equitable for people who are doing that, but it's a pretty rare thing. A lot of times if somebody wants a filament, that means other people might want it, and so we'll just buy a roll and print it that way. But sometimes it's something strange that we look at, and it's just like, yeah, we probably wouldn't. Or the patron has it. Maybe they bought a printer and they have a roll of film and they want to get it stood up, so.
I kind of thought that recovering the cost of the filament, our filament, was part of the rationale for the fee we were charging, so.
Yeah, that's our normal,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, we're recovering the cost of that filament. So this is really more about just that machine is in use for a certain amount of time, and that the staff are spending some time looking at those print jobs to make sure they print correctly, even though it's not our filament.
Okay, well, you'll see that in the resolution at the end of the board packet.
And there was another one not related to 3D printing. This would be about adding a resource. So we have a lot of patrons who are interested in printing stickers. We do have a lot of people that come in and use programs like Adobe Illustrator to do a digital design, and they're kind of interested in seeing that printed in a sticker form. So we're going to try that by providing a sticker printer, but there isn't a board approved fee for that. So we're suggesting that it would be $1 per page of sticker paper. So depending on how big they choose to make those stickers, they may get 3 or 4 for that dollar, or they may get 1 or 2. But it would be a flat $1 per sheet for them. And that would take into account the cost of the paper and also the cost of the ink. So that's the other resolution.
They're both on one resolution,
Okay,
both fees.
yeah, so just 2 fee adjustments.
Have we replaced any of the 3D printers since we started?
Yes, we are into generation 3 or 4.
Because they've broken down, or just because?
No, well, yes and no. So what's happened is the cost of the printer has declined precipitously. So what I would have bought when we moved in was about $3,000. And that printer could do 2 colors, and it required a lot of hand holding. I could now buy a printer that can do 4 colors with almost no hand holding for $1,500. So we kind of reached a point with some of those older printers where the cost of maintaining them started to get higher. The output wasn't as good, and the software tools that came with them were really falling behind. And so that was when we decided to start swapping them. So we're into our 2nd generation in this building, which is sort of our 3rd generation overall, because we had some at the previous space that was down the street, and we migrated away from those when we moved here, and now we've since moved on to that next generation here. And I would anticipate that to keep happening. The technology is getting better. The interfaces are getting better, so you don't need to know 1,000 settings anymore necessarily. The software is really good. It can actually do multicolor in ways that you couldn't in the past. They have automated materials changing systems on them where it can take 4 colors, change the filament in and out as it's printing to make a 4-color print. That would have been kind of unheard of. A few years ago, we would have had to have stopped the print, removed the filament, put a different color on, restarted it. So there's really been a lot of improvements in the technology. And that's something that we've kind of tried to keep abreast of. That's all I have.
That's all you got?
Unless anyone else has any other questions
questions?
about the DML.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Peter.
Staff reports, okay. Teen Library Council reports will resume in October. And renovation update. Bob? You talk about that again or no?
Yeah, Jason Larison from JS Held, our owner's rep, was with us for our building and grounds meeting directly before this meeting, and he gave us a little bit of an update. The City of Carmel permit has been approved. They did ask us to add dentals to the roof line, which we did. So we're good there. We're still waiting on a state permit, but the hope and expectation is that's going to come in this week. If it does, our project timeline is unaffected. We're good to go, and the timeline has us at completion by Thanksgiving, directly after Thanksgiving. So we're targeting 1st of December reopening of the branch. Again, 3D Pro is the contractor. They're preparing now, even though we're waiting on the state permit. They're purchasing material and they're doing some other non-structural activities to prepare the space for work. So that's all looking good. The solar contract, Ann has reviewed it for us. EJ gave me some good comments. We'll be returning that back this week. And so that is officially part of the project. And as I mentioned in my director's report, the branch staff and collection, they're all here at Main Library for these months. And our branch manager is here. Catherine Huddle is here. And Catherine, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to say or update.
They today started protecting our automated materials handling machine for the project, which is important for us, and the staff has been assimilating and working on cross training.
Great. Well, great, thanks, Bob. Renovation update, strategic planning. I think you also mentioned that in the director's report, right? Strategic planning.
I did, and if we could plan on a longer, earlier session next month, we have a series of planning sessions planned for that day and the next day. And one of the big ones planned is a board planning session. So this is your opportunity to be involved in strategic plan that hopefully governs somewhat the next 3 years, although who knows what's going to happen in the next 3 years, but we have to try. And again, I think these planners, this methodology they're using is one of the best I've seen. I have high expectations for this strategic plan to be really excellent. And so is it 3 o'clock start, Beth? 3 o'clock start. We'll have a short break before the regular meeting starts at 5:30, and we'll bring snacks.
Pizza?
Pizza? Yeah, we can do pizza.
It's here. Here.
Yes, in
In
here.
this room.
Did we move the personnel meeting was supposed to be at 5 o'clock?
I had sent a survey out. Some of you have responded. If you haven't responded to this personnel and policy survey, please do, because we originally had it planned right before the 5:30. We can't do it that day. We need to find a different day. I'll put it sometime after that day. FYI, I am taking a trip to Seattle in the middle of September. I'll be back in town for the board meeting, so had to put our personnel and policy after that. But I proposed some dates on a doodle poll, so go check if you haven't looked.
think I looked.
Will there be a facilitator for that session? Board session?
Yes, yes, we will be guided by a facilitator.
Great, any other questions about strategic planning? Right, any old business? Okay, and then new business, we have a few resolutions. Should we go one by one on those, Bob?
Mhm.
First resolution. Find them all. Is the commitment to join the Indiana State Consortium for Public Library Internet Access. I think we do that every year, right? Is that
Right.
correct?
Move approval of resolution 3, 2025.
Okay, we have a first from Ann Poindexter,
Second.
second from Rosie Falk. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then now we have the resolution for 2025, the DML printing fees that Peter just mentioned. And do we want someone to go talk about the fees in particular?
Peter already discussed.
Peter he just went through it, and unless there's any
Any
questions,
additions to that? Okay, great.
Resolution 4, 2025. Second.
Second, first from Ann Poindexter, second from Casey Wilson, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, and then resolution 6, 25, to authorize investment in public funds action.
Yeah, so we usually do something like this every year, but it used to be that we designated, that we said that we would approve investing in any bank or buying a CD from any bank that has been approved by the State Board of Finance. We're not allowed to do that anymore, but we are allowed to designate any bank within the county. And so that's what this is doing.
Move approval of resolution 6, 2025.
We got first from Ann Poindexter,
Second.
second from John Williams, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then the last one is the resolution 5, 2025. I think Michael Mueller had suggested that we move the funds to the rainy day funds. Is that correct? EJ?
Yes, Mike talked about this last month. We're planning to transfer, or we're asking to transfer $3 million from the operating fund to the rainy day fund. We have sufficient cash, more than sufficient cash balance in the operating fund. And we're allowed to transfer up to 10% of our total budget for rainy day fund, so we're asking to move that.
Move approval of resolution 5, 2025.
Okay, we have first from Ann Poindexter. Second from Casey Wilson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, resolution passes. The rating. Anything else? All right, we are adjourned. It is so. Thank you, everybody.